All right, so we are diving deep today into that Marseille-Saint-Étienne match. You're probably here because you want to unpack what happened on that pitch. And a 5-1 final score definitely warrants some extra attention.
Absolutely. On paper, it may look like a clear win for Marseille, but there's a lot more to it, especially in the context of how the Ligue 1 season has been going.
Yeah, okay, so first off, the atmosphere at the Vélodrome, it was electric. A record-breaking 66,199 fans. I mean, can you imagine?
Yeah, that's intimidating for any away team, especially Saint-Étienne, who are already struggling down at 16th in the league. That kind of crowd adds a whole other layer of pressure.
For sure. And Marseille just came out and took advantage right away. Their high press was stifling. I mean, they were like a shark circling its prey.
Yeah, it was textbook. They forced Saint-Étienne into mistake after mistake, just winning the ball back high up the pitch.
And then, boom, 27th minute, Amine Gouiri, making his debut for Marseille, scores an absolute stunner. What a way to introduce yourself to the home fans.
It was a goal that just showed everything he brings, vision, technique, composure. He reads the situation, perfectly anticipates a poor clearance, and then curls it right into the top corner. And you could just tell right away that this guy has the potential to be a real difference maker for Marseille.
It felt like a sign of things to come, and Saint-Étienne, well, they might have been hoping for a second-half miracle, but that hope didn't last long.
No, not at all. Just 3 minutes into the second half, Gouiri again causing trouble. His cross is blocked by Nade's arm. VAR check penalty awarded. Mason Greenwood steps up and just slots it home cool as you like, 2-0.
And that's when the floodgates really opened, right? Goal after goal was almost hard to keep up.
Yeah, complete momentum shift. 58th minute, Murillo finds the back of the net after a scramble in front of goal, and then just 2 minutes later, Gouiri strikes again. Assisted by Højbjerg. 4-0, the Vélodrome was in a frenzy.
It was like watching a well-oiled machine. Every pass was crisp. Every run was purposeful. Saint-Étienne just could not cope. And to top it all off, Rabiot gets on the score sheet in the 77th minute with an easy tap-in from Dedic. 5-0, it was an absolute demolition.
Saint-Étienne did get a late consolation from Lucas Stassin in the 79th minute, but...
Yeah, by then it felt like a footnote. The story of this match was Amine Gouiri, 2 goals and assist, a penalty won. He was everywhere.
It was the kind of debut that makes you sit up and take notice. He fit into that team like he'd been playing with them for years. The chemistry he showed with his teammates, especially in the attack, it was remarkable.
So what impressed you most about his performance, apart from the obvious goal-scoring ability?
His movement off the ball, he has this knack for finding pockets of space and just exploiting any weaknesses in the defense. He's not just a finisher, he's a creator.
Yeah, it makes you wonder what this means for Marseille moving forward. I mean, they were already sitting comfortably in second place, chasing PSG. Could this be the spark they needed to make a real title push?
It's definitely a statement win. It shows the rest of the league that they're serious. And with Gouiri in the mix, their attack is even more potent. But of course, the Ligue 1 season is a marathon, not a sprint.
Right, consistency is key. And what about Saint-Étienne? This loss leaves them even closer to that relegation zone. Where do you see their season headed?
They're in a tough spot. Defensively, they look really vulnerable against Marseille's attack. And going forward, they just lacked creativity and that cutting edge.
It felt like they were on the back foot right from the get-go, never really able to establish themselves. They got a lot of work to do if they want to avoid a relegation battle this season.
Yeah, there's no denying the talent in the squad, but they need to find a way to regain their confidence and start picking up points. This defeat is a tough one to swallow.
We've talked about the goals, the tactics, the individual performances, but what stood out to you most about this match? Like, what's the biggest takeaway?
I think it's the potential impact of Gouiri. He brings a new dimension to Marseille's attack. His ability to score goals and create chances for his teammates is something they've been missing.
Yeah, it's still early, but he certainly made a massive first impression. Now the question is, can he keep it up?
Only time will tell, but he has all the tools to become a star in this league. If he can continue to develop and grow, Marseille will be a force to be reckoned with.
What about their next match? Any thoughts?
Well, they've got a tough test against Lyon. Lyon's always a tough opponent, but if Marseille can replicate the intensity and attacking flair they showed against Saint-Étienne, they'll be in a good position to get a positive result.
It'll be interesting to see how they approach that match tactically. Will they stick with that high-pressing style, or will they adapt their game plan?
That's one of the things that makes football so fascinating, right? It's a game of constant adaptation and evolution. No 2 matches are ever the same.
Absolutely. It's all about finding solutions to the problems that your opponent presents. And speaking of problems, let's shift our focus back to Saint-Étienne for a moment. What do you think they need to do to turn things around?
Well, their defense is a major concern, right? They conceded 5 goals against Marseille, and that's not a one-off. They've been leaking goals all season.
They need to tighten things up at the back, for sure. Do you think it's a personnel issue, or is it more about tactical organization?
It's probably a bit of both. They have some experienced defenders in their squad, but they haven't been performing consistently. They need to find a way to gel as a unit and communicate better on the pitch.
And then there's the issue of their attack. They only managed 1 goal against Marseille, and even that felt a bit like a fluke.
Yeah, they're struggling to create clear-cut chances, and their finishing has been poor. They need to find a way to get their attacking players firing again.
Who do you think holds the key to unlocking their attacking potential?
Well, Wahhabi Khazri is their main creative force, but he needs more support from his teammates. They need to get him on the ball in dangerous areas and give him options in the final third.
It sounds like a pretty daunting task of the manager. What would you do if you were in his shoes?
I think it's about finding the right balance. They need to be solid defensively without sacrificing their attacking threat.
Easier said than done, right?
Absolutely. But it's not impossible. They have the quality in their squad to turn things around. But they need to start believing in themselves and working together as a team.
Yeah, it's going to be an uphill battle for them, but as we all know in football, anything is possible. So for our listener who's been meticulously dissecting this match with us, what's the one thing you'd want them to walk away thinking about?
I'd want them to consider the impact a single player like Gouiri can have on a team's fortunes. It's a reminder that football is a dynamic and ever-changing game, where individual brilliance can often be the difference between winning and losing.
Great point. And on that note, we'll wrap up this part of our deep dive. We've covered a lot of ground here, but there's still much more to explore. Join us in part 2, where we'll delve even deeper into the tactical nuances of this match and examine the potential implications for both Marseille and Saint-Étienne as the Ligue 1 season unfolds.
So picking up where we left off, let's dig into some of the tactical nuances of this match. You know, things that might have escaped a casual viewer.
Okay, so armchair analysts, get your notepads ready. Where should we start?
Well, let's rewind back to the first half and focus on Marseille's high press. It wasn't just about energy. You know, it was incredibly well coordinated. They were forcing Saint-Étienne's defenders into these rushed decisions, cutting off passing lanes, basically suffocating them.
Yeah, it felt like Saint-Étienne's backline was playing hot potato with the ball back there, just never quite sure where to go with it.
Exactly, and that speaks to Marseille's tactical discipline. Every player seemed to know their role, and they were pressing as a unit, not just individuals chasing the ball.
I remember a few times when Saint-Étienne's goalkeeper was practically forced to just hoof the ball upfield, just to relieve the pressure.
Yeah, and that's a classic sign of a successful high press. You force the opponent to play those long, predictable balls, which your team can then win back easily.
And that brings us back to Gouiri. He wasn't just a beneficiary of the high press, he was an active participant in it, constantly harassing defenders, closing down space, forcing errors.
Yeah, his work rate was exceptional. You could see he understood the importance of contributing defensively, even though his primary role is to score goals. You know, that kind of all-around effort. That's what separates the good players from the great players.
Okay, so we've talked a lot about Marseille's dominance, but in the interest of fairness, let's give Saint-Étienne some credit. They did manage to create a few half chances, particularly early in the match.
True, they had a couple of moments where they managed to break through Marseille's press and get into some dangerous positions, but their decision-making in the final third let them down.
Yeah, their passing lacked precision, their crosses were often overhit, and their shots just lacked conviction. It felt like they were lacking confidence.
Yeah, which is understandable given their league position and the pressure they are under, but at this level you can't afford to waste those opportunities, especially against a team like Marseille.
Speaking of wasted opportunities, let's talk about that penalty incident early in the second half. What was your take on that? Was it a clear penalty, or did VAR overrule the ref?
For me, it was a clear penalty. Nade's arm was in an unnatural position, and it prevented a dangerous cross from reaching its target. VAR got it right in that instance.
And Greenwood's penalty conversion was just ice cold, by the way. He made it look so effortless.
Yeah, he has nerves of steel. To step up in that situation with the crowd roaring, the pressure mounting, and to just slot it home like that, it takes a special kind of mentality.
And that goal really seemed to deflate Saint-Étienne. From that point on, it felt like just a matter of how many goals Marseille would score.
Yeah, it was a classic case of a team losing their composure after conceding a goal. You know, their leads dropped, their passing became sloppy. They started making uncharacteristic errors.
Marseille, on the other hand, they just kept their foot on the gas pedal. They could have easily taken their foot off the gas and cruised to victory, but they kept pushing for more goals.
That's the sign of a team that's hungry for success. They're not content with just winning. They want to dominate.
Yeah, it's that kind of ruthlessness that could propel them to a title challenge this season.
Absolutely, but let's not forget they still have a lot of tough matches ahead of them. Consistency will be key if they want to stay in the race.
Now, I know we've talked a lot about the tactical side of things, but I want to shift gears for a moment and talk about the psychological impact of this match. What do you think this kind of result does to a team's confidence, for both the winner and the loser?
It's a double-edged sword, really. For Marseille, this win will be a huge confidence booster. They'll be buzzing going into their next match.
Yeah, it's like they've discovered a new level of belief in themselves. They know they can beat anyone on their day.
Exactly. And for Saint-Étienne, this defeat will be a major setback. It's going to be tough for them to shake off this feeling of disappointment and frustration.
But adversity can also be a catalyst for growth, right? They have a chance to learn from their mistakes, regroup, and come back stronger.
It's all about how they respond to this setback. Do they let it define their season, or do they use it as motivation to prove their doubters wrong?
That's a question only they can answer. But one thing's for sure, it's going to be an interesting journey for both these teams as we head into the second half of the season.
And for our listener who's been absorbing all this analysis, I'd say this: pay attention to the mental side of the game. It's often overlooked, but it can be just as important as tactics and technique.
Yeah, it's the difference between potential and performance. A team with talent but no belief is unlikely to achieve its full potential.
Precisely. And as we move on to part 3, we'll examine how these psychological factors could influence the rest of the Ligue 1 season.
Okay, so as we wrap up our deep dive into this Marseille win, let's zoom out and look at the bigger picture here. What are the kind of ripple effects of this match? Not just for these two teams, but for the whole Ligue 1 landscape.
Yeah, it's like dropping a stone in a pond, and watching those circles spread outwards. This result has implications for the title race, the relegation battle, and everything in between.
So let's start at the top. Marseille, they stay in second place, breathing down PSG's neck. Do you think they have a legitimate shot at the title this year?
I think they're definitely in the conversation. This performance showed they can compete with the best, and the arrival of Gouiri adds another dimension to their attack.
Yeah, it's almost like they found that missing piece of the puzzle.
But PSG is still the team to beat. They have a wealth of experience and a squad full of world-class players.
Right, but they haven't looked quite as invincible this season. They've dropped points in a few unexpected places.
That's true, and that's what makes this season so exciting. There's a sense that the title race is more open than it's been in years.
So if Marseille can maintain this level of intensity and consistency, they'll be right there come May.
Absolutely, they have the momentum and the belief, and now they have the firepower.
Now let's shift our focus to the other end of the table. Saint-Étienne, dangerously close to that relegation zone. Can they turn things around, or are they destined for a drop to League 2?
It's going to be an uphill battle. Their defense is a major concern. They need to find a way to score more goals.
Yeah, they have some talented players, but they're not performing as a cohesive unit. It feels like they're lacking confidence and direction.
The manager has a lot of work to do. He needs to instill a sense of belief in his players and come up with a tactical system that maximizes their strengths.
Do you think this heavy defeat could have a lasting psychological impact on the team?
It's definitely a blow to their morale, but it's also an opportunity for them to show their character. How they respond to this adversity will determine their fate.
So if they can learn from their mistakes, regroup, and start picking up points, they still have a chance.
Absolutely. It's not over for them yet, but they need to act quickly and decisively.
All right, so let's zoom out even further and think about the broader narrative of this Ligue 1 season. We have this potential title race brewing at the top, a fierce relegation battle at the bottom, and plenty of intrigue in between.
Yeah, it's a season full of storylines and subplots. You have young players emerging, experienced veterans defying expectations, and teams exceeding those preseason predictions.
Yeah, it's a reminder that football is a dynamic and unpredictable sport where anything can happen.
And that's what makes it so captivating. You never know what twists and turns are around the corner.
So for our listener who's been on this deep dive journey with us, what's the final takeaway? What should they be pondering as they watch this Ligue 1 season unfold?
I'd say this: pay attention to the details, the tactics, the individual performances, the psychological battles. These are the things that shape the narrative of a season.
And don't be afraid to form your own opinions. Debate with your friends, engage with the football community, and most importantly, enjoy the ride.
Because at the end of the day, football is about passion, excitement, and the shared experience of watching this beautiful game.
Well said. And on that note, we'll wrap up this deep dive. We hope you enjoyed the journey and gained some valuable insights along the way.
Until next time, keep exploring, keep learning, and keep the conversation going.